This may be a controversial statement, but in today's video, we're attacking how single handicap golfers can become scratch golfers, or if you're a 10 handicapper, how you can become a 5 handicapper. And honestly, the statement that I'm going to make, as I said, may or may not be controversial, but the better you are, the simpler the mistakes that you make. So let's dive into today's video. We're at Tropicana Golf Club. This is East 1, and we're starting off with this par 4.
Okay, that is where I shall go.
The tee shot left me on the fairway with about 115 yards, playing 118 yards. It has been storming all night, so it's very wet conditions, so I decided to go with a pitching wedge here. It's a stock pitching wedge for me because I was planning to carry it the entire distance. As I said, it's very wet, so I was expecting it to carry a little bit shorter than it normally does. Okay, you obviously cannot see where the ball ended up, but let me just rewind and go back to this shot here where we're gonna pause, and let me just show you where my feet are aiming versus where the flag is. And as a result, I ended up in the bunker just right off the pin, which is exactly where I was aiming. So as you can tell here, this is definitely not an ideal lie. You can see the pin from here. I'm pin high, so I've got the perfect club, I got a perfect distance, but unfortunately because I aimed it right, I ended up plugged in the bunker in an impossible shot because it's all downhill down green from here, and obviously with this plug lie I'm not going to get any spin, so the best I can do out of here is either make a long putt if I even stay on the green, or chip it in for par. So one small minor error of aiming incorrectly has led me to a minimum of 1 stroke penalty in this case. Whereas if I had aimed correctly, yes, I might not be going for a birdie, but I would definitely be at worst making a par in this hole. And that is how simply the stroke can accumulate just by a little bit of an error that honestly every single one of us can intentionally focus on if we pay attention to it. And this is exactly what I mean. If you are a lower handicap golfer, obviously you have the ability to hit the shots. A lot of times we end up in bad positions, causing bogeys, double bogeys, triple bogeys because of this kinds of mistakes in course management. This just shows you how wet the conditions was, because how did my ball carry onto a downhill slope? And yes, I preferred lie, that's why it's on the right side. It actually just backspun. But how did it carry into a downhill slope and stop on the downhill slope? So I've got a pretty ridiculous lie right now. Honestly, after the first hole, my biggest focus here was to make sure that I chose a good target and not overcompensate, because my tendency is to overcompensate for a draw. Obviously in this lie, it's going to lead your ball a little bit right. However, because it's downhill and downslope, there is a little bit of a tendency to shut the face as well. So I picked a target right in the center of the green for this one.
A yard for me, perfect.
So you can see here, this is very not ideal, and it was a pretty good shot but just ended up in a bad position. Tropicana is known to have pretty firm greens, so my target was honestly a yard right, hoping that it would have caught that slope and roll all the way down, especially with the downhill lie that I had. But with this condition now, for me to putt through this, it would have been very difficult. So I really have no choice here, and this is why obviously golf is a game of inches. Just trying to nip one and hopefully give myself an uphill putt. So again, we can see how easy it is to accumulate the strokes. That is 2 over after 2 holes from hitting both fairways, aiming incorrectly on the first one, and honestly hitting a good shot on the second but just getting a little bit unlucky. And that's the way golf is. That's why golf is a game of inches, not only referring to the inches between your two ears, but also the inches out there, because there are so many factors that we need to consider that a lot of times we make silly errors and it just adds up. So most importantly, we have to try to control what we can, which is choosing the right club, choosing the right target, making sure we're aimed at the right target and just swinging towards that target. So you couldn't really see it from the tee shot, but the pin position today is front and there are bunkers left and right here, which you can kind of see. The landing area is all downhill, so even though I've got about a 35-foot putt here, and it's definitely not a gimme 2-putt distance as well because it's downhill, downgrade, pretty tricky. But this is a good shot considering I had more than a short iron into a pretty narrow pin with not very much landing area width-wise. And this can be something that a lot of single handicapper golfers struggle with as well, which is making sure that they know which part of the green is wider and more preferable for them and not just always going for birdies. As a single handicap golfer, obviously you know that you can make birdies. There are birdies out there, and especially when we see a pin that kind of looks like it's going to suit our shot shape, it's very hard to stay away from the mentality of just trying to hit everything close. So even though I don't like to categorize holes as birdie holes, bogey holes, par holes, whatever it is, we do kind of know certain holes are easier to get birdies on, especially depending on the pin positions. So sometimes as single handicap golfers, you do need to take your medicine on some holes and to be aggressive on other holes, and knowing when to be aggressive and conservative is super important.
Mặt xong ấy.
So the next point I'm gonna make, I'm not even gonna lie, if I had a little bit of a better lie in the previous shot that I just hit, I would have definitely considered going for it, because distance wise it is gettable, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people struggle with as well. As your skill level improves, you know that you can pull off more shots, and then it takes that extra little bit of discipline to actually not pull off those shots certain times and to learn when to be conservative. So again, another exhibit of basically trying to be a little bit too cute, as I would like to say. Because it wasn't a perfect distance for me, I was kind of in between clubs. I should have just played the safer, more conservative shot, but I was still trying to play a cute little shot into this really tucked pin. And I probably was a yard short from being perfect, but I was also probably giving myself a little 3-yard landing spot of where I had to hit it in order to hit that perfect shot anyway. So again, another perfect example of how we put ourselves in bad positions that we don't need to be in just because we have a quote-unquote higher skill level to pull off that shot. It doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to, especially when the hazards in play are too penalizing. Sometimes you just have to play the simple, easy shot. So the next point I made might be a little bit controversial, but over here I've got 235 yards. I've got a front pin. It's an elevated green. Obviously I'm in the rough here. I've got a pretty difficult lie. So the best club I can hit out of this is going to be my hybrid, which of course if I get run out, yes, I have a chance of getting onto the green. But ideally I actually have to hit a 3-wood out of here, which I can't get out of that rough. So I decided to go with my hybrid, and this is the part that's controversial. So with the hybrid, some of the bunkers comes into play, and I kind of have to have a pretty difficult chip, I would say, versus if I were to lay up, I would give myself a pretty comfortable distance and therefore some kind of chip shot that I think I can hold closer than perhaps a difficult chip. So why it's controversial is because a lot of people do say that the closer you are to the green, the higher the chance of you making birdie. And that is why for a lot of instances, I will still try to go for the green, even if, for instance, in that instance, it was not the most ideal lie and I did have to hit a really good shot with no run out today. The chances of me actually getting onto the green was pretty low. But I still feel like relying on my short game is better than relying on a chip shot, which I could also hit a good shot or a not as good shot. So I feel like this is a little bit of a controversial one. So what do you guys think? Is it the closer you are, the higher the chance of you making birdie? Or is it the higher chance of you making birdie if you leave yourself in the comfort zone or in like a comfortable distance that you are very, very good at? So let me know what you guys think. But personally, unless there are a lot of penalizing hazards in front, I do still believe that the closer you are, the higher the chance of you making a birdie.
Zoom in on the face. Zoom in. That's like. Okay. Close up. That was a very angry. Close up on the face. That's the face. That's the face.
So unfortunately, we've had quite a few opportunities to take a few strokes back, but it just hasn't been rolling in today. The greens have not been working in my favor. And we've got this par 3 here, which the pin is really, really tucked. And just with my shot shape, hitting a 9-iron, it's going to be pretty difficult for me to hit a cut into this pin. It's tucked right. I know you can't really see it, but it's tucked right. So in order for me to draw this into this pin, I would literally have to be hitting it towards that tree, which I did not want to do. So I just kind of hit the more conservative shot, just hopefully give myself another putt, and was hopefully trying to make one.
Wow, it's the other way.
So some days when you can't make anything, you've just got to stick it closer. So luckily we stuck one close on the last hole to finish it off with a birdie. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and are able to take some tips out of it. As always, let me know what you guys think, if it helps, and if you guys have any questions, leave them down below. Catch you guys in the next one.
Overseas thinking about this part. Good job. Thanks, partner.